All right. So I am going to be covering the ChatGPT code interpreter, which in a previous video, I told you guys I had requested access to, and Mark and I got access. So I'm super excited to dive into it. And that aside, I feel just like so incredibly lucky. I don't know about you guys. Do you ever just happen to stumble into things and you're like, man, how did I get so lucky? But when I started to try and figure out what the code interpreter is to even be able to make this video, share with you guys some little insights, I hopped over to YouTube and I found all these mega YouTube channels that do not have access. And I feel so grateful. Truthfully speaking, I had a personal YouTube that I tried to grow for many years and I didn't get very far. And so when I look at this number of subscribers that we have and just the support that you guys have been giving us, it blows me away. But that is a humble thank you. And today in this video, we're going to be diving into the ChatGPT code interpreter. So very first, what I did was I hopped over to openai.com's blog section and I started just kind of looking at what the ChatGPT code interpreter can do. Now, it can do a lot of crazy things, but essentially what it is it's a Python interpreter. Python is a computer language, and said this in another video, but if you have a computer programming friend, or if you know someone who owns an Android phone, it seems typically those people are going to be your tech people. And when you ask them what computer language should you start with, they always say Python. I don't know why, but Python is apparently a pretty easy language to learn. Personally, I have not learned Python. I know HTML, I know CSS, which is a subset of HTML. And I taught myself those. It was very tedious. I didn't care to dive any further. Maybe I'll learn Python eventually, but man, with ChatGPT, it's been so easy to start building code for the app that we've been creating, the systems accelerator, that I just sent over what ChatGPT gave me to my developers. I saved like 20 hours of dev time, which was very nice. But anyways, the code interpreter. So I started pulling this up. It's a Python interpreter within a sandbox. And I was like, man, I don't know where to start. So let's just use the example that they had. And so I went over to ChatGPT. I clicked on new tab. And in the middle of the screen, you're going to notice that they've actually updated their toggle switches. And I kind of like this new layout. You can toggle between 3.5 and 4.0. And if you have access to some of the new things that are coming out, you can do this drop down. Now, we do have access to the beta of plugins, and I covered that in a different video. And I would just like to say, there are so many more plugins that came out. So in that video, there were only 6 available, and now we have like 8 pages, and it's just oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles of plugins. And I'm so excited. Some of the ones that I think you as a real estate agent are going to just find incredible value from. Instacart is one that I like to bring up a lot. But there is a Redfin integration with this plugin store, and I just think that as real estate agents, this is going to be a game changer. Super excited for that. I have not yet even began to dive into that. I will probably make an entire Redfin video. I just installed it right now. I have a Zapier integration video for the plugin section. And I love to use the example of Instacart because I think that that is an incredible way for you as a real estate agent to do some experiences. So major plugin update. Love to see it. Love to know that other companies are getting and they're diving in. They're excited to build those plugins. And I think that library is only going to grow. I'm sure at some point, all of the companies are going to have plugins. If they don't have ChatGPT working in the background, they're going to have a plugin that's going to aid us. I just think we're going to be able to do some really cool stuff. But the code interpreter has its own little ChatGPT area. Now, when I started doing that, obviously, I took this prompt from the example and I said, or I just pretty well copy and pasted it. Now, before I did that, I was trying to figure out what exactly it could do. And I saw an example on Twitter that I'll show you in just a second using a GIF. I tried just entering a URL. It didn't like that. But I went ahead, I used that example, and it solved this problem. So the Code interpreter at its core is a computive, or it's able to understand or give us answers to math problems. So a brick weighs 30% of a brick plus 5 GPUs. There are 100 bricks and 200 GPUs in a metric ton. How much does a brick weigh? Wolf. That is, I took business calculus coming out of college, and that sounds terrible. Luckily, we have ChatGPT, and the code interpreter is going to help me out. So it solves the problem. It gives me the answers right here. And the brick actually weighs approximately 7.81 kilograms. If you got that answer using some mental math, that was awesome. Good job. Let me know in the comments if that was you, because I want to give you some kudos. But I said, that's really cool. And something that I've been seeing other people do, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a second too, is they've been using the code interpreter to take this data and create graphs. And so I just gave it a pretty generic prompt. I said, can you plot this into a graph? And ChatGPT was like, it's not a problem. I would love to plot it into a graph, but we have different types of graphs that you can do. What would you like? I was like, of course you do. That was silly of me. I was not being a good prompt engineer and creating a well-refined prompt for you. So it gave me 3 examples, and I just wanted to kind of test the limits of it. So I said, can you provide one for each of the possibilities you stated? So a bar graph, a scatter graph, and a plot of the system. So it said, yeah, absolutely, not a problem. And it is just now finished working, and you can show your work. It's all of the code behind it. You could copy all of the code behind it if you wanted to plug it into some sort of system. There is, several code interpreters. Maybe it goes on the back end of your website if you're wanting to show the code. There's lots of opportunities for you to incorporate code, but for this, it's just showing me this visual data. Now, this is a incredible breath of fresh air that we now have like images in ChatGPT. Now, I know we've had different pieces of code and text blocks, but images on here is really cool. Not only that, but you could save this to Pinterest, and I think that that's some really cool stuff that is coming our way. But this is our brick weight to our GPU weight, and it's shown in that bar graph. It actually apologizes for the mistake. The color in the scatter plot needs to be the same as the XY. So not only is it giving me that, but it's also saying, hey, wait a second, I actually messed up a little bit, and this is how I messed up. So that's really cool, because ChatGPT is not only starting to check itself, but it's doing it in a way, and it looks like it's doing that in each of these. It's explaining how it messed up, and I would wager that it's probably because my prompt was not very good, without just kind of thinking about this in a long form. But apologize for the confusion. There was an error in the previous code block. This countered in the plot being drawn as the wrong level. That's really interesting. So at this point, you could probably ask it to adjust the error in the code block, because ChatGPT can computate that code or process and adjust or solve for that code, and make those adjustments. But it gave me an example for each of these, and that is really cool. Now, I will say I clicked out of this code block, and then I moved back into it the very first time, and it lost the images, and it just came here. So I did have to regenerate. That was really interesting. See, this kind of happens. You click back, and you kind of lose it. You can click down, show your work, and it goes to the code. So you kind of have to keep that little piece or that little feature up. You don't want to click around. Not sure how I feel about that, but hey, this is still in beta, and we're doing pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and rate that as better, because I think the feedback is going to be really valuable to them. But that is one of the major things that we can do. Now, as a real estate agent, I know that we're probably not doing a lot of computative math But I think that the very first thing that I want to show you is by a Twitter user named Ethan Mollick. Now, Ethan is a professor at Wharton University, and he is all about AI, and a lot of influencers have been referencing him. So I wanted to pull up a tweet that he had made, and basically he gained access to this as well, and he's been able to do some really cool stuff. One thing that he did was he was able to use it to build out some research in a collegiate setting for some papers that he's writing. Now, I went to grad school. I had to make a thesis. I had to submit it, and it had to be reviewed and approved. And then I had to go defend my thesis. It was a whole like process. And I have a master's in marketing. So this guy has, like an even more tedious, degree program or thesis. Truthfully, I did not look at what he studied or anything like that. He is a business educator with games. Interesting. Nice work, Ethan, if you find this video. But what he was able to do is in like 10 minutes, he was able to do all this computative research using the ChatGPT feature, the code interpreter. I can't believe I forgot that. He was able to use that using the code interpreter. And he said, this is a game changer. And he was showing how he was doing it. This entire Twitter page is just kind of devoted to different things he's been doing with the code interpreter with ChatGPT. And it's really interesting just to look at some of the different stuff that he's been able to do. It is really interesting from a code side. Again, probably as a real estate agent, not as interesting to you, but he's doing some really cool stuff. He is truly pushing the bounds of what the code interpreter can do within ChatGPT. And it's cool to see because, as you follow along, you start to get some ideas of just the different stuff that you can do with the code interpreter. And he's also giving the prompts that he's using to get this information. So create a GIF visualizing how ideas spread through contagion, Jesus, through contagion in networks. I maybe should go back to elementary school and learn how to read. And it created a GIF. So really cool stuff like that. That you can also do, creating GIFs, creating MP4s. You can upload CSVs. Another thing that I have been seeing a lot about is this GIF that someone took, and they uploaded a gift, and it's a 5-second MP4, and they want a dramatic slow zoom in. And this user in their prompt to get ChatGPT not to like spit out all this, oh, I understand what you're wanting to do. They said, no talk, just go. That's kind of an interesting prompt ad. I don't know how I feel about that, but I I'm kind of here for it, right? And so here's the GIF that he provided. And it's just this GIF of this like anime character drawing of an individual, and then here's the final work of it, and it just slow zooms into the face. Now, not doing anything crazy, but it was built by ChatGPT using the code interpreter, and that's really cool too. So this is my initial baseline dive into ChatGPT code interpreter. And I'm going to keep diving into it, but I know so few of us have access right now. I just wanted to share something with you as a community and, start exploring what ChatGPT code interpreter can do. Now, if you have not, like and subscribe to this page, and maybe we can rival some of these ChatGPT influencers that are emerging. And that would be really cool. But if you do not have access to the code interpreter and you're really dying to see something, let me know in the comments and I will do it, and I'll make a video about it, and maybe we can grow as a community. Even though you don't have access, you can kind of use me as a proxy. I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to keep learning. as much as I can possibly do. I think that there's some really cool stuff that can be done, both with those plugins that just expanded and with the code interpreter. But that's kind of all I've got for this video. I just wanted to show you this is like day one, step one of me learning what the code interpreter can do. I'm super excited to keep diving into it. But I hope you're having a really great day, and I will talk to you very soon.